Hello, how are you? Are you ready for our classes today? Okay, let's start. Very good. We are going to start with our daily routine, okay? Yesterday was very good Wednesday. Today is Thursday, and tomorrow will be Friday. Very good. So the date of today is Thursday, April 23rd, 2020. Remember to write the date at the top of the pages that we are going to work today. Okay, let's see how it's going to be the weather today. Well, the weather today is going to be sunny again, okay? Maybe at afternoon we are going to have so many clouds, but it's going to be sunny. And remember that we are in spring, okay? Very good. Excellent. Let's go to start with our classes, okay? We are going to start with mental math. So I remember to write here the short date, and we are going to start making our mental math. I am only going to say you 5 operations because we don't have too much time. So we are going to start with the number 1. Remember, I am going to say it 2 times, and you are going to write only the result here in this space. Okay, we are going to start with the number 1. 45 times 2 minus 7 equal 45 times 2 minus 7 equal number 2. 112 times 8 minus 60 equal 112 times 8 minus 60 equal number 3. 77 times 3 plus 7 equal 77 times 3 plus 7 equal number 4. 98 plus 112 plus 10 equal 98 plus 112 plus 10 equal and the last one, number 5. 65 times 2 minus 20 equal 65 times 2 minus 20 equal okay, very good. Excellent work. And now we are going to go to see a video about our next activity. It's about percentage. So we are going to see the video, and then we are going to go to our mental math page number 168.
Have you ever been to shops and seen signs like these? What do these numbers and symbols mean? You're getting a deal, but what exactly does 10 or 20 or 50% off mean? You might have noticed this interesting symbol. It's called the percentage sign, or percent for short. The word percent can be broken down into two words, per and cent. The word per means the same as for. The word cent comes from the Latin word meaning 100. So, percent means 4 every 100. And it can be shown like this as a fraction. This means percent, or 4 every 100. In fact, percentages are another form of fractions. You may remember that fraction means part of a whole. Percentage is the same thing. It means part of a whole. In this case, the whole is divided into... Can you guess how many parts? That's right, into 100 parts. I bet the percent gave that away, didn't it? If you happen to see a sign that says 20% off, what exactly is 20%? It's 20 per 100. That means out of 100 parts, 20 are colored in. Money-wise, it means that out of $100, you'd get 20 off. That's a deal, isn't it? It's better than paying the whole amount, or the full price. Just for fun, can you guess what 40% would look like on this chart? Since you know that 40% means 40 per 100, you'd color in how many parts? You got it, 40 parts. If you were shopping, it means that out of $100, you'd get 40 off. Whoa, that is a lot more than 20% off. I'm buying for sure. And there you have it. You'll look.
Okay, very good, excellent. Do you like the video? Okay, it's an introduction of percentage. So in our book, what do you have to do? Okay, page number 168, and here you have some pictures of percentage. Here you have 1, 2, and 3, and here you have to read the following text. Okay, it's about more or less what is a percentage and what, when we say percentage, what it's really mean. Okay, so means, okay, here we have three boxes that you have to say me what percentage or percent the square is colored. Okay, remember to write me the date here at the top of the page, and I have for you another activity. In our book, we are going to write these sentences and these questions, and you are going to answer me, please. What is percentage? What does percent means? And what number is used for the denominator for every percentage? Okay, it's very easy. You can see the video again, or you can see the text that is in your book, and you can answer these 3 questions. They're very easy. I am going to leave here for a while so you can copy the questions. Okay? Okay, well, let's continue to our book, and we are going to change to global citizenship. In global citizenship, we are going to thinking about slavery. So for this activity, I have this video, so it's important to see it so you can answer the questions that are on the page. Okay, so let's go to see the video.
Life for an African American held as a slave in the southern United States between the years 1619 and 1860 was one of extreme hardship and injustice. African Americans living as slaves had no freedoms of their own, owned no property, received no pay, were beaten or whipped for disobedience, and were bought and sold like animals. The large plantations in the South survived on slave labor. African Americans worked the fields, tended to the animals and farm chores, and worked in the plantation homes as cooks, housekeepers, seamstresses, servants, and nannies, receiving nothing in return but inadequate food and shelter. African Americans who were held as house slaves had somewhat better treatment than those who worked in the fields, though African Americans who worked in the plantation homes were treated more as pets than people. African American families could be split up and sold at auction depending on the needs of their owners. A large plantation in the southern states could have as many as 100 African Americans working the day-to-day chores. African Americans were controlled by the overseer who woke them at dawn and often worked them until dark. African Americans who didn't obey the overseer could be badly mistreated and beaten. Slave quarters were built separately and away from the main plantation house. These quarters were usually one room, dirt floor cabins with a fireplace. In some cases, African Americans living as slaves were allowed to have small gardens, pigs, and chickens by their cabins. This helped to give them healthier diets, but often the overseers left them very little time in the day to tend these gardens. An African American born as a slave on a plantation could live out his or her whole life there. They might never see the world outside the plantation boundaries. Their days would be dedicated to serving their owner, never receiving payment or freedom.
Okay, very good. This is our video about slavery. So we are going to go to our book, and in our book, page number 104, you have some things that you have to do. The first one is you have to do is to look at the picture, and then you have to answer the questions. Be careful to see this picture, what happened here, what are they doing, who is she, okay, who is she, okay, and what is she doing here, okay, and answer the question. Leads for details, you not eyes, okay, what is an action, and how do you think is happening in the picture, and how would you feel if the color of your skin made people think it was alright to treat you like property. Okay, answer these questions please, and remember to write the date. Okay, in the page 104 and 5 we are going to read and listen the following text. Remember that you have to underline it, and at the end of the reading you are going to make me a mind map. Okay, make me a mind map of what is the reading about. Okay, let's hear the reading, listen the reading, and we'll talk later.
Daily life of a slave. Read and listen to the following text. By 1860, there were 4 million African American slaves in the United States. Most slaves lived in the southern states, where many plantations used them as workers. On these large farms, slaves planted, tended, and harvested crops. Some slaves worked in houses where plantation owners lived. Others cared for horses or gardens. No matter where they worked, they were treated unfairly. They were considered the property of their owners. That means they were bought and sold at auctions and were not able to make their own choices. They could not get married. Children could not go to school. Many were separated from their families. Many were mistreated, hurt, or even killed. The daily life of a slave began early, sometimes when it was still dark. It was long and lasted into the evening hours. Slaves did not get any breaks from their work. Punishment was often harsh for anyone stopping to rest. Children worked together with adults. They lived in slave quarters. These were crowded cabins with dirt floors. food was usually cornbread, hoe cakes, salt pork, and local vegetables or small animals. Slaves were often hungry and sick. Slaves were only valued for their ability to make money for their owners. As such, slaves had no rights or freedoms. For most slaves, their only hope for a better life was to run away, risking severe punishment or death.
Okay, very good. Then remember the important facts. They have to be in your mind map, in optional pages or in your notebook. And remember to write the date and your name, okay? And here we have the self-assessment. You have to circle any words you don't know, and you could learn what this word means, or how you could learn what this word means. And you have to go to the dictionary and check what is the meaning, okay? Okay, let's go to the page number 106 and the last activity that we have to make today. You're going to think about the daily life of a slave, and then you are going to compare it to your life, okay? You have to fill in the chart below with at least 4 statements on each side that shows differences, okay? What is the life of a slave, and then what is your life, okay? And what are the differences, okay? You have 4 spaces and make a sentence here. Okay, what is the difference? Okay, well, for today it's all. So please make your homework and send me to the mail. And okay, I miss you very much. See you. Have fun. Bye.